Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hunt Lift Eat podcast. I'm your host, Luke, running with the new co host, at least with me. We got Dan Wrights. What's going on, brother?
Hey man, how's it going? We're doing good.
Heck yeah. This is the first one we ever recorded together, right?
Uh, no, we did one at Mile High.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah,
We did. I forgot, dude. The past 6 months has been a blur.
yeah.
And our guest today has been part of that blur because we were down in Texas hunting turkeys and hogs. We've got Johnathan Bryant from Cazador Guide Service. What's going on, Jonathan?
What's up, gentlemen? Good to see your smiling faces again. And glad to connect as always. Yeah, Texas was a good time.
Yeah, we had a blast. It was all wrapped up my cords here. It was a hell of a time. It was unseasonably warm for April. We thought we were going to be missing the heat a little bit by moving the hunt up, but it was still a lot of fun. It's a cool piece of property. You guys got some cool stuff going on out there.
Absolutely, you're able to do some Rambo reconnaissance and bag you a turkey while you were there, and be able to get a lot of great footage and content. But more importantly, just able to connect and really hear your mission and vision. That was awesome. And to see what you guys are already doing and what you're already implementing was really cool.
Yeah, we appreciate the invite. We had like I said, we had a great time, and you were more than gracious to put up with my crazy youngins, especially my son running around all the time. And we had a stack of people down there: Garrett, Kiefer, Dan, Jesse, Caroline. Am I missing anybody?
Jess,
Other Jess.
Charlie was there. Other Jess was there. Yeah, it was a lot, but it was a good time.
absolutely.
Well, yeah. So let's just go ahead and before we kind of roll into what you're doing with the guide service, let's get a little bit about your background and how you grew up. And did you grow up in the outdoors hunting? Was that something you discovered later in life? Like what was that?
Absolutely, yeah. So I did not grow up hunting. Mom and dad, I mean, we, had cattle around here, and if we were outside, it was working cattle and being on the farm, fixing fence, helping grandpa bale hay, do things of that nature. Obviously, rabbits everywhere. So every once in a while, we take out the shotguns and go shoot some rabbits. But other than that, dad was not a big hunter. Grandparents weren't big hunters. So I was never really taught or uh, introduced the hunting ways, if you will. And so as I got older, it was an opportunity for me to create a hobby, something that I wanted to get into. And I got connected with some good buddies of mine who had bird dogs, and they just rant and raved about bird dogs and, getting to be out there and, all the work and watching the dogs work and seeing their skill set. And so my good buddy, who's a doctor in Missouri, connected with him, and he had two Britneys, and he came down and he's like, "Man, you really need to get you a bird dog." And I was like, "All right." So we would pheasant and quail hunt, and I was like, I think you're right. And so I wound up getting a GSP from some people down in Midland, Odessa, Texas area. They had an incredible pedigree. Mom and dad were field dog and trial world champions. And so, of course, if I was going to do it right, I'm going to go all out and get the most expensive and the best pedigree. And he's Ace. He's my GSP. He's incredible. And I just kind of got started that way. And so my good friend Brian Knopf, Doc up in Missouri, kind of introduced me. He gave me a book to read about bird dogs and how to understand them and help train them. So I wound up training Ace myself. Of course, his pedigree, it came second nature, so I didn't have to do a lot of training, and I just started guiding some bird hunts and really getting out there and doing pheasant and quail, and really wasn't into big game. In fact, I was pheasant hunting on opening morning one in December. December 1st is whenever our pheasant season kicks off, and there was a massive mule deer right out there in the cotton fields, and I'm like, oh, I happen to have a rifle in the truck and it's still deer season. So I went back to the truck, got my rifle, and of course, we all know, well, around here in West Texas, mule deer are dumber than snot. And so he's still just standing there, like, oh, hey, what are you doing? And boom, shot my first mule deer the easiest way possible, right? Everybody was just like, for real, out there in the cotton field, like 45 yards in front of you? Absolutely. Shot my first mule deer. I was like, man, this is pretty cool. And then it just progressed from there. So then started guiding and had about 3,000 acres out in the Sand Hills, just south of Olton, Texas. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I had clients coming in from all over. I love hospitality. I love connecting with people and hearing their background, their stories, but more importantly, creating those memories that last a lifetime. People coming from all over and leaving home with a crazy wild story of 30 coveys of quail and more birds than we've ever seen, and pheasants, and then of course the deer hunting aspect of it. And it's just kind of taken me to that next level, which is where El Cazador Guide Service started, on an incredible ranch in Turkey, Texas, about 4,000 acres. And we have mule deer, we've got whitetail, we've got aoudad, pigs, turkey, lots of turkey, giant jackrabbits that look like turkeys. We've got just about anything and everything you could possibly think of out there. And it's an incredible property that has a ton of wildlife. So El Cazador Guide Service has been out there for almost 2 years, on top of other properties that we have around here in West Texas that we guide on. So
What kind of drew you into the guiding aspect of everything?
well, I'm a very entrepreneurial mindset kind of person. So I said, look, if I have the opportunity to be able to connect with people and get paid to be outside, right, to be outdoors and enjoying and creating these memories and connecting with people, why not? If I know and I do my homework and I study where these animals are moving and I take the time to really invest into this property and how these animals respond, why not make some part-time income, if you will, just doing what I love, being in the great outdoors, connecting with people, creating those relationships, those memories, and in turn being compensated. And so it never was my goal to make it full time. We have, between my wife and I, 5 other traditional businesses that we own and run. And so it was just the entrepreneurial mindset that if I'm going to be out there and spending time doing what I love, why not make a little bit of income at the same time?
I meant to ask you when we were hunting together. What's El Cazador mean? Where did the name come from?
Yeah, so El Cazador in Spanish, of course, is the name El Cazador. In English, the translation is the hunter.
Okay.
So El Cazador means the hunter or the hunted. And so that's what El Cazador stands for. Yep. And then how that came about is, I like to do stuff that's different and original. And it's really cool to say El Cazador, right? But other than that, that's about the extent of it. Just instead of, Johnathan Bryant's guide service or J&B guide service, is something that just stuck out a little bit more. And of course, just as well as I do, whenever you have a catchy name, a catchy slogan, it helps with marketing and advertising as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What's Give us some good stories from some of your clients. I've every time we have somebody who guides or I talk to them, I always want to get one of the crazy wild stories. We had a guy, Matt from Triple M Outfitters, and he had some wild ones, almost getting shot, and crazy stuff like that. What's your craziest story?
Um, well, I'm like, well, how far is this going to reach, right? Because it may reach that hunter, and he's going to be like, man, he's talking about me, but it is what it is, right?
We don't have to say any names.
Exactly. We'll just say John Doe. So one of the crazy stories is, again, my bird dog. He's a part of the family. My wife, I think, loves him more than she loves me sometimes, which is fine, right? But he's an incredible dog. He's a part of the family. And I was out guiding quail and pheasant hunts, and just like what you said with that other gentleman, I was shot. And not only was I shot once, I was shot twice. And so when you're bird hunting, when you're pushing birds, your dog's working, it's one of those. I communicated to him, look, you shoot my dog, I'm shooting you, and thank goodness they did not shoot my dog. But unfortunately, with the dog work and where they were, um, these guys said they were hunters, right? We're all hunters. We can all make that 500-yard shot, but there was shotguns, and we're out there quail hunting. And unfortunately, they crested a hill right whenever a covey flew up, and I was directly right in front of them, and I was shot. And of course, hey, whoa, 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 some words were said, and then I'll be damned if it wasn't 30 minutes later, and I get shot again. And at that point, I said, you know what? Um, One, I need a drink to calm my nerves. Two, you guys obviously need to drink because you're not hunting for the rest of the day because you don't know how to hunt. And three, I'm just glad that you didn't shoot my dog because that's, done, cut it off. So I've been shot twice, and it was not a fun conversation you have to have. But unfortunately, hunter safety is more important. And it's like once I get as a fluke deal, but twice in the same half day hunt, we've got to reassess what we're doing here and pull it back and say, nah, no, we've got to do some serious in-depth look if it's worth my time and if it's worth your time, because if something happens to me, right, that's going to be on your conscience. And so thank God it was just birdshot and it wasn't slugs or anything else like that. But that's one crazy story. Another crazy story that I could talk about is as a guide, just like what I said, you have these guys coming in camp that have their chest puffed out and they're like, if I see that deer at 500 yards, I want to try this long range rifle and I want to shoot him. It's West Texas. If our dog runs away, 2 days later, I go out on the back porch and I still see him running. Right? It's flat. There's no, obviously we have the cap rock, but other than that, he's running and I can see him. So it's flat. I have a lot of guys who come out here want to do some long range shooting, and this guy comes out and he's like, I want to take a deer at 500 plus yards. He's like, all right. I was like, what are you shooting? And he's like, a 338 Lapua. I was like, a 338 Lapua, and you're looking at shooting a whitetail. Like, are you wanting to take anything home with you? Number one. Number two, I said, all right, whatever, 550 yards, 600, we'll see what takes place. And you guys got to see the wheat fields that are out there. So wide open, made sure there was nothing behind them. And, unfortunately, when you put clients on animals and they say they can shoot 8 rounds later and there's nothing to show for it, that's whenever we, of course, hear all the excuses. Oh, my gun must be off. I should have zeroed it in when I got here. And like, man, hey, I'll put you on this opportunity, and 8 rounds later, you're not able to hit the mark. So let's get you about 100 yards in, and we'll see what happens. But you're gonna have to put that 338 Lapua up. You're gonna have to use a rifle that makes a little bit more sense. So just getting around stuff like that and hearing these different stories. Actually, one of the craziest stories that just happened recently was with y'all. I said whenever you guys got there, and you guys quoted me, I have not seen any rattlesnakes out here on this property whatsoever. Right? And of course, I just spoke it out, and look what happened. Jessica Mays was with me, and I'm sitting there talking about the fortified cottonseed and what it does for the deer and everything. And a foot behind me, she's like, hey, there's a snake right there. And sure enough, good old rattlesnake was right behind me. And thankfully, we dispatched that thing, and she was able to take it home and cooked it up and made some delicious rattlesnake bites, and was able to
Those looked good.
tan the hide. Yep. So that was pretty scary. That was definitely one for the books that I won't forget anytime soon.
Yeah, that was wild. We heard the shooting, and we're like, oh, they're on turkeys. And she comes back all grinning and pulls out a rattlesnake. We were like, what the hell happened?
I know after that, every blind I got in, I'm like peeking my head in there first, being a little more cautious and seeing what's under what. And
and then
a little more cautious after that.
And then Jared, the ranch owner, was just out there last weekend, and he was like, take a look at this one. I'll send you guys a video in a little bit. About 6.5 foot right outside the barn. Just pissed off, rattling like crazy, and he's got the rattler. He's like, man, I cut his head off, threw him in the trash pile, and lit that thing on fire. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it. So again, hadn't seen any, saw one, and now Jared, has one that he just sent the video of. Obviously, they're out there, right? It's cap rock, it's their territory. They're going to be moving, especially with the warmer temperatures. But it's just crazy to say that to you guys, and then a day later, one's a foot behind me. So, but those are some of the crazy stories.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it was a bird shot and you were at a little bit of distance. How bad did you get peppered when you got shot?
Pretty bad. Thankfully, I had sunglasses on. It cracked my sunglasses, went through my shirt, actually embedded into my chest. clipped my ears. A couple other places I was bleeding from it. Um, I've had worse, of course, with a firework or something stupid, but it's just the whole concept, right? Of course, you always want to make sure that your hunters are having a great time, that you're pleasing them, putting them on birds. But at the end of the day, hunter safety is everything. And whenever you have something like that happen with grown men, it's serious, and it's one of those shut it down. That's it. Operation's done. Not worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially happening twice. You're more gracious than I would have been if it had happened once. It would have been the end of it for me. I don't have the patience. I don't think guiding's cut is my line of work. I'll be honest. That would the stories that I've just heard and from all the guys. We've got several of our guys that work for us are guides, and it's nuts. Guys just sometimes no fault of their own. Sometimes it's just sheer negligence and stupidity and ignorance, and it's there's a gap, and people think because it's guided that it's guaranteed, and the guides are doing all the work, and all they have to do is show up and pull the trigger, and don't realize the legwork and the repetitions and the training that needs to go into it, and like kind of the seriousness of the consequences if it goes poorly.
Absolutely. And just understanding, just like I told you guys, three things I can't control, right? Mother Nature, the animals, and the hunter. And of course, the animals is the biggest thing. If I had a high fence ranch, I can guarantee you stuff all day long. I got people that inquire all the time about hog hunts. Was it a guaranteed hunt? Like, if you're booking with somebody that guarantees it, then they just let them out of the cage and let them out of the trap, and they took off, because nothing, whenever it comes to low fence free range animals, is ever guaranteed, ever. And I will never guarantee anybody anything, because I can't control the animals, right? Just like you guys saw, we had 40, 50 mile an hour winds and 95-degree temperatures. They're not going to show up in the middle of the day or first thing in the morning like they were before you guys got there. Daniel got pictures every day. Can't wait for you guys to get here. They're here at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, bright and early. Here they are. And then boom, front comes in, and that's it.
Yeah, and we all understand that, right? I mean, that's the difference between, we always say hunting and shooting or hunting and killing is the animals have a vote, and it's really like, I don't, if somebody else wants to go do high fence, that's fine. I've done it. I don't really particularly like it because, like, to me, the guarantee kind of ruins. It's like, why am I doing it if I know that I'm going to kill something? It kind of ruins the whole thing. Like, it's so much more fun when you've got the uncertainty and the unknown, and you don't know what's going to come out. You don't know what you're going to see. It might be nothing. And most of the time it is nothing. And that's something else that I think a lot of younger and newer hunters new to the game don't understand is the majority of the time you won't see stuff. It just makes up for it on those few times that you do.
That's exactly right. How many times are we watching the hunting channel, and it's like day 7, last day. We haven't seen anything. Last light, and then a monster steps out. That's usually how it happens. You got to put in the work, and you have to understand that their movement is vast, and pressure systems, weather, food, the whole 9 yards, water, everything is ever changing, and so they're also ever changing. But that's the beauty of it, creating those stories and those memories of, hey, we put in the miles. We tracked in, we did the work, we made sure, we baited the area, we did whatever it took in order for those animals to show up, and it just didn't happen. So that's why I love it too.
What's a piece of advice you could give someone who's wanting to come out and go with an outfitter on their preparation?
A couple of things that I would advise is make sure your equipment is ready to go. Double, triple, quadruple check it. When you leave your house, make sure you have a backup, because you never know what could happen whenever you get out there. Make sure you have a backup before you leave the house. And then once you arrive on the property, check your equipment again. Make sure you're ready to go. There's a lot of things that happen in transit, even if it's a 30-minute drive, or like you guys, a 6.5, 7-hour drive, and you've got nice cases and padded and everything. You think nothing's going to move, or stuff moves. There's bumps, there's potholes, there's people falling asleep on the road, veering off, whatever, things happen. So always double, triple check your equipment. And also make sure that you understand the laws of where you're going. Different counties have different regulations. And yes, the guide usually knows and the outfitter usually knows, but you need to be aware as well. So if something happens, even if the guide's with you in the blind or where you guys are, or you're out walking hunting, just be aware and know, take the time to understand what you're doing, right? And study that county and what those regulations are that that particular outfit or ranch county is in. And then lastly is um, always expect wonderful things, but prepare for the worst. Always expect wonderful outcome, but prepare for the worst. Because if you have high expectations coming to a low fence, free range ranch to come shoot 150-inch whitetail deer, and you book a 3 or 4 day hunt, think about it, right? The guide is going to do whatever it takes to make sure they put you where you need to be, depending on their pattern and their movements. But just prepare for the worst and have high expectations. You go home with a 120, 130-inch whitetail, but you're out there for 150. Things happen, right? You can't control, again, the weather, you can't control the animals. So just always have good expectations, because obviously you've made a connection with that outfitter, with that guide. You've seen the pictures, you've seen the proof of what's to, possibly take place, but then prepare for the worst. You could go home empty handed, but hopefully it's a good guide, good outfitter that makes it right and says, hey, sorry, come back. You know, it is what it is, but I would love to have you back and give you another opportunity at a later date. So those are the three things that I would advise the hunters coming out or booking with outfitters.
Yeah, that's all really great advice, and those are lessons that I've learned over the years. A lot of them the hard way, especially when it comes to like checking your gear, uh, especially like with your weapon system. So your bow, your rifle. And when we got there, it was like immediately I was like, yeah, we need to set up a range because I was hunting in Wyoming, and I even confirmed my zero when I got there, but I ended up wounded an antelope and lost it because somewhere in transit in between I was hunting tiny pockets of public and bouncing around a lot. I bumped my rifle and was shooting super high. And so it's like you have to consistently shoot, confirm, know what your equipment's doing. And too often guys will fly to a hunt or drive and jump out, or haven't shot it, since last season. And like shit happens. Equipment will degrade. Like you said, the bumps will happen. And plus, it's just a confidence thing. And then that way, if you do take a shot, it's like, I know this wasn't my rifle. I just had a bad day. And then you can correct, like instead of chasing the dragon, where you don't know where you're hitting because you don't know if your optics zero correctly, you don't know what you're doing, and then you start having that snowball effect where you're just like you turn into a head case because you don't know what's happening. Versus, you know, correct a follow up shot's a lot easier if you know it wasn't the equipment, it was you. And I think people just kind of discount that a lot of times.
Exactly.
It's,
You have to remember you're in a completely different element. Whenever you're shooting and sighting it in, you don't have any pressure. You don't have the adrenaline going. You don't have the, oh, I need to make a quick decision as soon as they turn broadside and make that shot. So you're in a completely different mindset and space from an energy standpoint, exertion. So, buck fever, everything else. And when it's down to the wire and you're having to make that shot, you need to have full confidence that, hey, I told my guide I'm confident at 150 yards. I know my rifle's on. Now it's up to me to be able to control my breathing and to make that shot accurate, because most guides, most outfits, we have property lines, right? So if you wound an animal and it goes across the property line, you just opened up a whole nother can of, what ifs, right? So again, just like you said, make sure you're confident with your equipment. So when you come out and you're under that pressure and that adrenaline, you're confident with that shot.
yeah, the other piece of the training and repetition is just practicing. A lot of times when you're zeroing or you're shooting at the range, you're sitting on a rested bench, you've got a sandbag or a lead sled, you're very stabilized. Like that's not always how it is going to go, especially like even in a blind or a stand, it's not the same type of rest. If you have a tripod, it's a little different. If you're running a clamp or an integrated ARCA or something, you can be more stable, but you need to understand like the differences and the situations you're going to be in, because I've run into that. I was in Wyoming, I was taking a shot, it was very unstable, and wounded a mule deer. I like to talk about a lot of my mistakes, and it was like shit, and that was something to me where it was like, okay, I need to do more prep and shooting more unstable surfaces, different positions. Am I sitting, kneeling, standing? Am I hunched over because I'm having to rest on something that's like an awkward height? And like that sort of stuff really comes into play, and it's important, and it's only going to increase your odds of success, and then limit those mistakes that best case you clean miss. Unfortunately, a lot seems like a lot of my mistakes I actually wounded animal, which is way worse. So it's if you haven't had that feeling, you'll have it eventually if you hunt long enough. But all we can do is like the best we can to mitigate that through training and repetition.
That's exactly right. In fact, speaking of that, I have I had a gentleman, older gentleman, who reached out about pig hunting. He was dead set on shooting some pigs with his bow, and so I said, "All right, I can make that happen." He contacted me on a Monday, and he lived in Montana, and he's like, "I'm coming down tomorrow." I'm like, "What?" So he made a bonsai trip down, 9.5 hour drive. Contacted me on Monday. Was here about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. I'm like, all right, this dude's serious, awesome. He's like, he was a guide for big game animals up in Montana. And so I'm like, all right. And, I'd show me pictures of what he shot, what he's harvested. And so I'd get him in the blind and get him set up at like 35 yards. And the pigs come out, boom, he smokes a little piglet and the piglet dies right there. Arrow's still stuck. Cool. We wait for 2 minutes, another group comes in, and there's about 9 or 10 of them stacked up. And I've got video of this, and I think I showed it to Dan, but they're all stacked up in a line. Well, equipment wise, he had just changed the nocks on his arrows, new arrows. And so he put it on, went to shoot, 70-pound draw weight, could have smoked like 4 or 5 of them in a row. And as soon as he released, because he changed out those nocks, it grabbed onto that bowstring a lot tighter than what he was used to, and that arrow went nowhere, right just down onto the ground underneath all those pigs, 20 yards. I mean, just boom, right underneath them. And so that took away from his hunt, where he would have had 4 or 5 pigs harvested because he didn't check his equipment and didn't make sure everything was good. He wasn't able to go home with more than a piglet, right? He would have been able to have a way cooler hunting story that I smoked 4 or 5 in one shot because they were all stacked, lined up perfectly, but he didn't check his equipment. So very vital. And I'm like, dude, you drove 9.5 hours from Montana to come down here to hunt and didn't take the time to check your arrows. So equipment.
It must have been like 19 and a half from Montana.
Oh yeah. 19 and a half, like nine, I don't even, yeah.
It was like 9.5. It's a math is a
Yeah,
math.
yeah. No, it was like 7 hours for us in Colorado. So I know it's a lot further than that. Yeah, like 19 hours. Like to drive all that way and then to not be able to harvest is tough.
Yeah, and I feel like with me, like I know better most of the time whenever I make a mistake, and it's just like fuck. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just get complacent when in the more experience you have. Like when I was kind of newer into Western hunting, I was a lot more diligent and deliberate. I would check my gear, I would pack everything, I would lay it out, I would check it 3 or 4 times. Now I just like throw shit in a bag and roll, and I'm fine because I've done it enough. But then like it's that one time where you're like, I probably should have taken the extra hour and actually run through all this. And yeah, so prep, that's the name of the game, for sure, prepping. And then the other piece that I really wanted to harp on that you said was just knowing the regulations. I think that's really been highlighted to me with all the traveling I do, because I've traveled. Dan, you're starting to get into this world too, like going all over the country to hunt. Every single state's different. A lot of states, especially when you get to like the East Coast and then down to Texas, where it's different by region or county within the state, and it's confusing as hell. Most of the game and fish websites are a disaster. Like I'm originally from Virginia, and Virginia is a nightmare to try to figure out what's going, like even when the seasons are. So you just have to really do your diligence, because you'll find yourself in a predicament, and nobody wants to get in trouble with old green jeans.
That's exactly right. And that's the last thing you want to explain is, oops, I accidentally harvested. And like, for instance, not a lot of people know with us, we have whitetail regulations. It has to be over 13 inches inside spread in our county. Mule deer, 20-inch inside spread. So then people that are wanting to book hunts, they're like, hey, I want a management buck. It doesn't matter if it's a little spike over here. I'm like, well, we have, requirements, regulations, a 13-inch spread. So yeah, it's a management buck. It's going to be a decent management buck because of those regulations, but we don't harvest anything that's under 13-inch inside spread. And then of course that excites them because they're like, okay, it's going to be a decent management buck. And then they see a muley and they're like, oh, I want it. No, 20 inches. And we're talking outside ear. So harvesting mature animals, which is awesome because it helps the population. You don't have people just running and gunning, which has helped us in this region tremendously. But it's just, communicating those things as well. And especially when people are booking hunts, and they're like, hey, I want to upgrade and I want my wife to shoot a buck. It can just be a little, management raghorn type. Like we don't have that. Like, I'm sorry. I would love for her to shoot one, but this is what it's gonna have to be. So they're like, oh, okay, never mind then. So she can shoot my doe. Okay.
Dan, you're quiet over there. What do you got for Johnathan?
Oh man, I'm just ready to go back. In all honesty, no. One of the things that you mentioned a little bit ago when you were talking about kind of what to expect was hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst kind of situation. And one thing that I really noticed when we were down there was like just the hospitality, right? So that's something else to look at when you're booking a guide or an outfit, whatever. Look into that a little bit because like that can make or break the experience too. And with Johnathan, we had an excellent time. Like even if we never even touched a gun or a bow, it was a great time. The camaraderie and everything like that was just wonderful.
Yeah, and just like you said, that can make or break a hunt. If you can't be in control of the weather conditions, and then you have somebody that's just like, oh well, you're in the lodge. Let me know if you need anything. Sorry about you. That's discouraging. And then you're thinking, oh dang, what if I would have booked with this guy, or what if I would have went over here? What if I would have spent my time over here, or invested more time finding out, if something does happen like this, are we able to come back? Are we able to rebook? Like, what's your rebooking look like? And there's unfortunately a lot of guides and outfitters out there that once you pay, you don't shoot, you don't necessarily get your money back, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in that business because at the end of the day, just like I tell you guys, it's about creating memories, it's about creating experiences. I don't feel confident. I'll say this right here on recording. You guys came down, the animals didn't show up like they normally do. So I already told all of you guys, you're welcome to come back and hunt for free. Just cover food because I know you guys like to eat. Some of you a little bit more than others, and that's it. My doors are wide open, but at the end of the day, that's what you came there to do, was to film content,
Yeah.
shoot animals, harvest pigs, and it just didn't happen because of the weather. But come back. My doors are wide open. Let's rock and roll again, when it gets cooler, and let's take another stab at it. And I will tell you, even Jessica knows this, and I know you guys have been busy, but I've been sending pictures. I'm like, there's 35 of them right now at the feeder.
Right where you were.
Yeah, exactly where you were. Like, no
Yep.
joke. During the daytime, like right now, I have pictures from tonight. They were right there, like literally like 28 of them. I just counted them. And Jessica is even like, I think that they all text each other and told each other, hey, we're not showing up this week. Like, something's going on. Well, they all sent out the mass group message and said, nah, we're not showing up. So I am excited when you guys do come back. There will be definitely plenty of hogs. There is still plenty of hogs, and it's a never-ending process. Being backed up against the Caprock Canyon State Park, over 16,000 acres, there's no pressure, right? So they have a huge playground to go and frolic and not worry about any pressure. And then, of course, they're like, oh, there's wheat fields. Oh, there's feeders. Let's go get some food and head over here and not have to worry about eating these cactus.
Yeah, that was one that was really cool to me that I've never done. I've hunted pigs a couple of times, and I've never done it at night until we were down there with you. And like that was a totally new experience for me. Is one of those things that like I wasn't fully prepared for. I had a night vision set up on my rifle and didn't have the light set right. Like I had 20 yards is all I could see, and just a stroke of luck when we got on those pigs that last night. But yeah, that wheat field stuff was sweet.
I know,
Spot and stalking pigs and
and I
the
hate that
calling
Luke
thing
Luke
blew my
missed
mind,
it.
man. I want to call in some more pigs because that was nuts.
That was crazy. I was like, I could tell all of you were there for like 4 minutes, and everybody's like, "Yeah, right. This guy's got a giant boombox out here, and he's gonna call some pigs in, and whatever." And then the whole discouragement is like hot. Everybody's just pouring sweat, right? We're just absolutely melting out there. Like 4 minutes goes by, and I see everybody just like, eh. And the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, big pig coming. And then Luke, he's right there in front of me, and you were right next to me too. Boom, you just get ready, and here he comes. And he was like, nope, pivot, turned, and just,
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome. That was really cool.
he was getting out of there.
Yeah, that was a big
I,
pick.
I'm
I
still
went
going to
from
maintain that I put at least one into him, but I don't know.
Well, if
I
you
know
would
I
have had your
shot
camera
him,
on, sir, and
but
not turned it off before there, you would have
We could
had
have, yeah, I know.
confirmation.
I just turned the Tacticam off to save the battery right when we started shooting. Yeah, he came
yeah,
booking in there, and everybody, we were all like in a line just to paint the picture. And then Johnathan put my JBL big boombox out front, and he's running these hog calls. He's got a series of them, and I was a little skeptical. I've hunted pigs about every way you can hunt them, short of a helicopter, and I was like, I've never seen anybody call them in, but I'm a believer now. Next time I'm down, when I go where I go in East Texas, I'm gonna set that same setup up because yeah, he came coming in on a rope, just booking in there, and I caught all of us kind of off guard, and the firing squad opened up, and he ran off. So
Yeah. I think he took a couple of bumps, to the side, and he is still gone, and he was out of there. But yeah, and I hate that Luke missed out on the spot and stock. That was huge. Hats off to the whole HLE team. I was like, there's 9 of us, 9 grown folks trying to stock in. We literally made a stock on a group of probably about 18 pigs, 540 yards out. And I'm like, the wind was blowing 4 miles an hour, and it was
Yeah,
off of our back, going straight to them, coming at our face, just kind of swirling all around. I said, there's no way we're going to get 9 people all the way across this wheat field to this group of pigs, but we did it. We made it happen. We got within 70 yards. Daniel was able to make an awesome shot and just smoke that pig and drop her right where she stopped. She didn't know what was going on, and it was pretty cool to be able to have 9 people stock in on a group of pigs like that and be able to see all that unfold. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like I've, guiding hunts out west and everything and just buddy hunting. Even like, man, I don't really like going with more than 2 or 3 people because it's enough noise to blow out a mountain, let alone 9 people in a wheat field. But it worked, man. It worked.
It did work. And of course, the guide was the one making the most noise. I was stepping on the giant, weeds and everything. And I'm turning around and I'm like, oh, well, I can't get mad at y'all. It was me making the most noise. But no, it's an incredible time. Can't wait for you guys to come out and to get after some more pigs or whatever else is on the harvest menu when you guys show up next time.
how's everything looking for the fall? You guys getting all prepped, and it's going into, you said is this your third or your second season
This will be the second full season.
at this ranch?
Yeah, second full season. Things are looking good. This summer, I'm about to invest another probably $20K into protein feeders, new blinds, new feeder setups, specifically where I know the mule deer are going to be so that I can start offering mule deer. We had some monsters show up, but they weren't patterned consistently. So I did not want to offer that to my clients until I get a good pattern down. We can all hope and wish in one hand and the other, right? So I want to make sure that muleys are showing up consistently. We have some massive muleys out there, and then be able to offer those this season. So I'm going to have some new blinds set up as well, some tower stand blinds, some more ground blinds, insulated, and just kind of really take the operation to the next level, like you guys talked about, treating it as a business and doing what we need to do on our end. We're doing a lot of grub work currently right now back there in the Mesquite area. We're doing a lot of excavating, so we're going to do the entire stick ladder brand, which is the ranch brand back there, and create some shooting lanes. And so set up a feeder and a blind, a feeder and a blind, and really be able to have more opportunities for, of course, more wildlife coming in. Having more food, we're going to be planting a couple of food plots as well as more wheat on a different part of the property. So really just taking what we're doing right now and multiplying it by 10, because we know that the wildlife is there. We just have to pattern them. And the only way to pattern them is to offer something that they're not getting anywhere else. So supplementation, mineral, protein, things of that nature. And then we are currently booked right now for our whitetail season. I never like to overpromise and underdeliver. So we have quite a bit of whitetail hunts booked currently right now. So we're booked solid for whitetail, but we have muleys available. Once I start getting them patterned, I can get some information sent over and start pricing those things out. But it's looking really good. We've had more rain than what we've had in a long time. All the ponds are full. We just stocked one of those ponds with fish. So by next season, we'll be able to do some bass fishing in the downtime and cat fishing and perch and crappie. We're just taking it to that next level. So again, the lodging and the facility and the ranch is awesome. And as long as we continue to grow that aspect of it and have plenty of wildlife, it's going to be top tier.
Hell yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to get back down there. I can only imagine in your first year, you're just kind of scrambling just to get everything set up enough to get through a season and learn what you don't know and how to, really look at the property. And then you come out with a list of shit. You're like, all right, we got to do all this. And now you're in the throes of all that.
It's exactly
Yeah.
right. And at the end of the day, 4,000 acres butted up against that vast of a property, it's pattering those animals. There's
Hmm.
like a weird bond type relationship that the whitetail have with the mule deer out there. It's like there's a specific fence, like a property line, imaginary line that goes through the entire property. And it's like the mule deer understand we're going to stay on this part of the property and you whitetail stay on this part of the property. And it's weird. They don't cross those boundary lines. So it's just understanding their behavior and where they're going to be traveling, their corridor where they're bedding down, of course, and then targeting them in their natural environment to make it as natural for them as possible. So, yeah, when you guys come back out, it's going to be lots of changes, lots of upgrades, lots of awesome things that we're adding to the hunting aspect as well as the lodging in the facility aspect as well. So we'll have some awesome TVs up there in the main barn area to be able to hang out, watch some TVs, and lots of other cool things that we'll be able to offer.
Heck yeah, that's exciting. I'm stoked. I'm already ready to get back out there.
I'm ready to have you.
That
I
was
know Dan is too.
yeah, yeah.
Dude,
The
you say when, I'll go. Truck's loaded, ready to go any day.
Well,
yeah, and after I got the Rio, I killed the Jake, which was my. I actually said this on camera. I'll say it again. It's been a long time. Statute of limitations is my first legal bird. When I was younger, I didn't really understand how all that worked, the North American model and all that, and just kind of wandered around our property and shot things. But I don't do that anymore. I hunt on the up and up. But yeah, that was a kick ass experience, and so I've kind of got the bug back for turkey hunting. So I want to get down there, and I think next year I'm going to try to do a single season Grand Slam.
yeah,
And so I'm gonna come down and try to get a Tom this time, not a Jake. But that was a hell of a time. The wind was just whipping so much. Calling was just basically,
non-existent.
yeah, it was worthless. And Will and our camera guy, he's like trying to film and stuff, and the wind's whipping, and we were gonna, hunt and kind of do a run and gun style hunt. And then I was like, dude, it's so windy. We should just sit in the blind. Like, we're not gonna be like, we can't hear anything. Like, just get some shelter and see if this dies down, and then we can run and gun a bit. And we saw a group of jakes, a couple hens, kind of like go across the wheat field. And I tried to stalk them. I had your fan, and I was trying the reaping method. I'd never done that before, and I was able to get within like 5-6 yards of them, but I didn't know where the hens went, and I was worried with where they were because there was a bit of an elevation drop, but those hens might be behind them, and I just didn't want to take the risk of shooting and one of the jakes and then hitting a hen accidentally. So I didn't take the shot, but just being able to get that close to him was like awesome. We get back to the blind, and I'm like looking at Will, and I was like, dude, I'm good. Like, that was like stalking into that close on a group of turkeys was badass. Like, I'm ready. And we were like kind of fucking off. I was like, yeah, we'll give it another 20 minutes. We'll pack up and head back to the lodge and hang out with everybody. And I like look over, and out of my corner of my eye, I just see a red head, and the group of jakes they're coming right towards the property line. We're hunting like right on the edge, so we couldn't shoot them across the fence, and they're coming right towards us. And I'm like, perfect. They see that fence like turkeys tend to, and they just start getting hung up. Like, they can't freaking fly over it. I hate watching turkeys do this. It's like going back and forth, bebopping around only the way a turkey can. I'm trying to throw out a couple, clucks and purrs and see if I can just like get them to come to the decoys, and they're not even like remotely responding to the calling. And then they like booger off back into the tree line. I was like, well, that's that. And I'm like kind of starting to pack up, but I'm looking behind me, and they had like, or actually I think Will saw the hen. Another hen came straight out, and then she just didn't even hesitate at the fence, shot right at it. She's 3 yards in front of us in the decoys, just hanging out. I'm like, oh, the jakes are going to come right to her. Perfect. Nothing like having a live hen, a live decoy right there. No, they circle all the way around, go behind the blind, and I was like, what what is going on? So I'm like, Will, move. It's like two fat guys in a blind. We're like trying to like go around each other, like kind of shove them out of the way. And I low crawl out of the back of the blind all the way up to the fence and then jump up, and one flew over the fence or went under the fence, and I blasted him, and he was, I hit him a little low. So I hit him like right at the base of the neck, and he was kind of flapping. And I was like, I'm not letting this guy fly off. So I ran up, and Will's got a video of me swinging him around and snapping his neck. And it was cool. It was just one of those like days of hunting where like there's just a lot of cool shit that kind of happened,
Yep.
like low crawling and stalking up on a turkey and smoking it after getting that close to the other ones. It was fun. So I'm really excited to get back out there, and I want to really focus. I've been practicing my calling and trying to get a lot better and taking it more seriously. I've kind of like written off turkey hunting the past few years because I've been deployed or stuck doing something else and living in Louisiana and all that shit. So I'm excited to take it more seriously because it's fun.
Yeah, we call that getting Western.
Yeah, it got Western for
Definitely
sure.
got Western. Yeah, and so I have to ask the question, Dan, has your wife had her first confirmed kill with her bow yet?
She has not. No,
Oh,
she
all
didn't get to
right.
hunt with me on
Memorial Day
the
weekend.
other couple trips.
Is this weekend?
Yeah, she hasn't got a hunt yet, so we're gonna try this weekend. I got some days off work. Got a 4-day weekend, so we're gonna go try to run up and down the river here in Colorado and get her a bird.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that was one of the things that really stuck out is Dan's like, Jess has not killed anything with her bow. We've got to get her first kill. And I'm like, of course, as a guy, that just weighs in the back of your mind, like, I don't care if Dan gets something. I want his wife to kill something for the first time with her bow, and she's been putting in a lot of hard work and a lot of practice. And I'm like, man, we just gotta get her on one. And then that last day, sitting in the blind and calling in a pig and seeing that big old thing run by, but
yeah, she saw one.
Yeah, it just wouldn't come in. And of course, the wind shifted. Imagine that, came right off of us and went right to him. But no, that's I would love to. If she doesn't get something this weekend, you let me know. That's still weighing heavy on my mind. I want to be able to help facilitate that. So
yeah, no, for sure we will. She was just happy to see something because I've been dragging around the mountains elk hunting for the last 3-4 years now, and she's convinced that they don't exist and they're just a mythical creature when she's with me. So I see them all the time when she's not there on the weekends that I hunt solo, and then I don't know. So she was excited to at least see some critters and be in the action.
So what you're saying is we need to leave you in the lodge and we need to take her out and put her in a blind because it sounds like
Probably.
you're the bad luck, right? Yeah.
That or I did realize that night we went out stalking through the wheat field. I was like, yeah, here, take your bow. You'll be fine, or take the rifle with no light or nothing on it. So I kind of clear up a failure there, but you live and you learn.
Exactly right. Well, hopefully next time if we do some nighttime hunting, we'll have everybody set up with their own individual thermals, and it'll be awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
for sure.
Yeah, it's a big goal of mine before early next year when I'm switching over to pigs. I really want to have a dedicated nighttime hog rifle set up and built, and because it's fun. Shooting them at night is just a lot of fun. And then if you're running suppressed, you can just drop a shitload of them.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We do it often, not as often as I'd like to, because again, it's like, hey, I can go out and shoot and kill all these pigs myself because I know where they're at. I know where they're going to be. I know when they're going to be there. Or I can let somebody else do it. So I'll just let somebody else do it. So yeah, that's the challenge, right? Being able to see all these pictures come through, like, yeah, that trigger finger's feeling a little itchy. I need to go kill some stuff for myself. So,
right. I got to ask you, did you ever get that one track down that was knocking over your feeders?
No, he's still out there living his best life.
Around.
Yeah, absolutely living his 1,000% best life right now. So, no, but he definitely has a toe tag, like ready for him. Yeah. And I would love for somebody else to shoot him, but him and I have a personal vendetta. So if I shoot him, I will not feel bad for anybody else. I mean, he's a massive pig, so I can't wait to see what he weighs and get him back and get him weighed on the tractor and scales and stuff and see what he comes in at. So yeah, but he's did piss me off.
For a little background context for everybody, Johnathan has a particular pig who just loves tearing everything up. rip up the hog paneling on the fences, flip the feeders. He'll try to fence the pigs out so the whitetail can just get the feed, and this hog just tears everything up.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a hog. Of course, you see him, destroying feeders and things, but this dude, like, legitimately is the smartest dumb hog I've ever seen. He will root up an entire 6 foot T post, like root it up, dig down until he gets to the base of it and root the T post up. Multiple T post, multiple. I think I had a 20-inch stake inside the footer on top of the T post, on top of it being wired to the legs. I mean, this guy just, he has a very strong will. And the last feeder that he destroyed, I found 800 yards away down into a draw off the cap. Yeah, he just busted it and rolled it right off the cap. So, yeah, we have some talking to do, man. That guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how smart they are. I used to trap them, part of the management program down at Fort Benning, and like if you didn't have your sets, we were doing like manual traps with running like either wire or 550 cord, and then they would root it, hit the trigger, and then drop the. We didn't have the fancy trigger ones off your phone or whatever, and if you didn't have your shit set right and it didn't drop the right way, like that hog would never go back into a trap. And I would watch him on cameras, like the whole sounder would go in and he would just eat all the corn from like the breadcrumbs that we'd leave and would just sit right there outside the trap, never go in again. Like they're like coyotes, like you flash them once, you're probably not going to get them again. I mean, they're just so intelligent. And then they are escape artists. I had one pictures of him in the trap, went to pick him up, gates closed, there's nothing. Like the paneling looks perfect. And I have no idea how he got out. The camera didn't pick it up. To this day, I don't know what happened to that hog. There wasn't blood. Like somebody else didn't come on and take it. Like, I don't know what, unless somebody let him out, I guess. But like, I don't know what happened. There was a bit of off the T post, the wire was stretched, but it was still pretty tight. And I don't know if I mean, he was probably a good 150, 175 pound pig, and he got through there. They're nuts.
I've seen them jump out. Like if you got those big tall panels and stuff, and they will climb and jump out. And I'm like, man, I mean, I'm 215 pounds, and I know what it takes for me to jump over a barbed wire fence or a chain link fence. I can only imagine. You got, well, my legs are about probably the same height. Little 8-inch legs, and trying to get over a 4 foot fence. And have 150, 200 pounds of pure muscle. Trying to get over that. I don't know how they do it, but man, they are clever animals, and they're disgusting, and they need definitely some population control. Speaking of that, did you guys happen to see that Kentucky is banning feral hog hunting in the state of Kentucky because it's scaring them away to where they are not being able to trap them as well. So if you have private land, you're still able to shoot them, but for the most part, guiding hunts and shooting pigs in Kentucky is going to come to a halt.
There's a lot of states that are doing that to de-incentivize people releasing them,
Yeah.
because that's been a problem with some of the less reputable, I would say, outfits, is that they've been letting them out. And I think Colorado, you can't hunt them. I think I'm right there. Game and Fish just hammers them if they start coming north across the border. But yeah, there was another state, I don't remember which one it was offhand, but it was one that I was kind of surprised, but they banned it where you can't hunt them, and it's to de-incentivize, which I get. It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like if there's a resource, like we want hunters to be able to kill them, but at the same time, like hogs are so destructive. Like they're going to be up where I'm from in Virginia at some point, because they're all over Tennessee and North Carolina, and they're moving up into the mountains, so it's only a matter of time. And I'm like, a part of me is like, yeah, it'd be sweet to be able to hunt on my family farm and just smoke pigs year round. But then, like, God, they're destructive. And my dad runs a cattle operation. El Cazador is a working ranch. Like, yeah, they're a resource, but they are a expensive resource, and I don't think the damage and what they cause really offsets the fun and the potential revenue stream that comes in from that.
Absolutely. I think here in Texas alone, they do about $1 billion a year in damage to crops.
Yeah, I looked it up. Yeah, it was I think, yeah, it's something like 1.5 billion annually in the United States. It's crazy. And they breed so quickly. I was when I was doing that trapping, I was working with the US. So there's a lead trapper who's from the USDA, and he like runs the installation, and he ran the trapping program with the volunteers. And during the initial brief, he like showed a picture of like this like tiny show baby pig, and was like, if you're not willing to kill this thing, you need to get the hell out right now. And because I don't like killing baby anything, and I still don't like killing piglets. Like I've killed a lot of piglets, but I don't like it at all because they're, I mean, almost like puppies, like, and but they breed so quickly. They're sexually viable within 6 months. They can have multiple litters per year. Six up to six piglets a year. Like they can just breed so quickly,
Yeah.
and it's just exponential, and the populations just explode. You've got to kill half of them, 50% of the population annually, just to maintain current numbers. Like we'll never eradicate them. All we can do is just try to keep them from continuing to explode in population.
Yeah, I just had a sow on camera. She had 13 piglets by herself. Yeah.
Wow, that's a huge.
Wow.
Yeah. 13 piglets
That's
by herself, and you're exactly what you said. They can have up to 2 litters per year. And so that's 13. And then, out of those, how many of those are sows? So we'll just say half of them, are going to be able to have another 6 to 10 piglets per, twice a year. So it's just crazy how those numbers, and they do. I mean, next thing you know, you look and, 5 months down the road, there's a whole new sounder, and it came from that batch of piglets that are now able to reproduce. So it's an ever growing issue, but we're going to try to do our part to take care of some of those. That's for sure.
They're fun to hunt. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
They're fun
Jonathan,
to hunt. They're also
sorry.
like a good opportunity if you guys have never gotten to do it before, or like new to getting into hunting. I don't think there's anything else I'd recommend besides going and doing a pig hunt as your first like big game hunt, because the opportunity's there more than like spending $700 on an out of state elk tag or something stupid like that. You can go down to Texas and kill a stack of them, and get the reps in and really learn stalking, learn your wind, like just those things that takes time. It really helps curve the learning curve, or shorten the learning curve. Excuse me.
Yeah, in the state of Texas, you don't have to have a hunting license to hunt feral hogs. You just have to have your hunter's education. So that, of course, encourages a lot of people from out of state to come in and hunt. Our feral hog population is they don't have to have a hunting license. Obviously, we encourage you to have a hunting license, but the necessity by law, you just have to have your hunter's education class, hunter safety education class, or be with somebody who has both a license and hunter's education safety. So that's another thing too that appeals to a lot of people who, I don't know if you're a hunter, why you don't have a hunting license in the state that you reside in, but that has come up a time or two in the past. So
Yeah, one thing on if you're wanting to get into hunting and learn, if you already have a baseline of skills and some experience, pigs wide open. But I do think hogs, in my experience, can sometimes teach some bad habits that when you're rolling it over into ungulates, because it's pretty free reign. And like the ranch I hunt at in East Texas, like the owner like yelled at me one time because I let a hog go because I didn't feel like I had a great shot, and he was just like, no, if you see it, I don't care if you put it in its at, like, you shoot that hog because they tears up everything that he's got going on, right? And so he wants those pigs killed. And that was like a shift in my head, and which is good for pigs, but like as a young hunter, if that's not messaged correctly, like it can lead to some bad habits. So just like I think that you need to be really mindful of, like, pigs are a nuisance animal, like hardcore, more so than like anything, damn near anything else, other than maybe those like nutria rats or whatever that they got down in Florida. And so it's a different mindset. Like I've taken shots at hogs that I would never take on a deer, or an elk, or a mule deer, whitetail, or whatever. So just kind of know that in the back of your head if you're going down. Definitely take advantage of it because, like Dan was saying, getting repetition. Like I talk about it all the time. Like repetition and killing for as a hunter is like it's really important because I think Jonathan, you mentioned it earlier. Like it's totally different than when you're training. When you're shooting at the range, when you've got an animal in front of you and you're trying to make that shot, your heart rate management, like being able to control your breathing, not blacking out where you just don't even know what happened, right? And you just have an open or a closed loop or an open loop the entire time, and you just like slam the trigger. Like being able to run through that whole process and get the repetitions important, but at the same time, just know that hunting hogs is not the same as hunting an actual like game species, uh, kind of on an ethics standpoint
And
and a legality standpoint.
absolutely. And the last thing that I want to touch on that too is what happens whenever you come out and hunt hogs that um, is good and bad, but it teaches you a lot of how you respond. Is there's more than one, so we get in this panic, right? That we shoot, and as soon as we shoot, we start chasing the other two or three because we want to kill as many as possible. But as an ethical hunter, your job is to make sure that you kill that first one that you shoot, right? We don't want to shoot just to injure. So what I always try to teach is, hey, pick one, make sure it's dead before you move on to another one because it's easy to pray and spray, right? When you got 20 going different directions, but that's when chaos happens and sometimes trouble ensues, with the whole chaos and having three or four different hunters and pigs going everywhere and them freaking out. So same thing, it teaches you a lot of, hey, concentration, shoot what's in front of you, make sure it's dead, and then after you harvest that animal and it's dead, then move on to another one and shoot another one. Because like me, just like hunting quail, just like hunting dove, when there's more than one coming in, it's very hard to concentrate on what your target goal is harvest one, but you got four or five in front of you, and you kind of get that panic. So same thing with pigs, especially night hunting when they're coming at you and running in different directions. It's a little bit different. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I agree completely. And like you mentioned there with having other hunters, right? That was because there was 9 of us, right? Like my officer brain was like, all right, we got to like have a brief before before we like roll through to set up this call. And so I was just like trying to preach to everybody, like, all right, like we need to set like some sectors of fire. Like it gets chaotic, especially if you've not hunted pigs before. People get really excited. Like we were hunting them down in Florida on these big swamp buggies. It's like a pontoon boat on tractor tires with Triple M. It's a ton of fun, but it's crazy, right? There's pigs running everywhere, and you're just dropping them. And guys that get caught up in the moment, like one dude, when I was there the first time, he actually shot the railing because his sight over bore, so your optic is higher than your muzzle, and so he can see the pig clearly, but then his muzzle is pointing. Especially a lot of guys are running like shorter AR platforms and stuff. You can get real dangerous if you're not paying attention to what's in front of your muzzle. So just kind of know that too. And that's why like I have mixed feelings on pigs for brand new hunters. Like Dan said, it's a great opportunity. You can get a ton of repetition, but God, you can learn some really bad habits. And so just like be really deliberate with that. Make sure you're with an experienced person. And if you're hunting with a guide, like Johnathan, like let them know, like, cause I'm, I know that Johnathan would like probably have a little bit more bumpers, for somebody that had no idea what they were doing. So just don't have ego there and be the guy that walks in all puffed up. I'm going to take a deer at 600 yards with this 338. Like,
Yeah, well, I definitely wouldn't have had
know
nine
your skill
people
set.
traipsing through a wheat field, stalking in at 540 yards if it wasn't for you guys who are experienced hunters. And even then, we still had our this is your lane, this is your lane, and
Yep.
everybody followed protocol to the T. I was impressed because I'm used to people not listening and getting into that moment of and there's people who didn't even shoot, who had an opportunity to shoot, but they didn't take the shot because they didn't feel safe, which was incredible. So that's why I always say that the HLE team is always welcome back because from a community and culture aspect and from a guide standpoint, following all the rules and having a good time and making sure everyone was safe. I mean, there was a coyote that we called out and there was cattle out there in the wheat field, and Jessica saw it in the thermal and she still didn't take a shot because she didn't quite feel that comfortable, which was awesome to me. Right? Absolutely awesome. So having hunters like that is completely different than somebody, like you said, new coming out and saying, well, first of all, they're not going to be walking around in a wheat field with a 44 mag with a red line on it, like Kiefer, and ready to throw some 44 mag rounds down range.
Kiefer had a Dirty Harry revolver with Not only did he have a scope mounted to the top of the revolver, on top of this scope, he had a red light, but it wasn't like a small little tactical one. It was like a mag light, red light,
Yeah,
and it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, but it was
he's
awesome.
probably
This
like
thing was so
Thing weighed like
19
30
pounds. Yeah.
pounds.
He's over here like
they're
holding his wrist. I don't hold that thing up, but that was a good time. Can't wait to have you guys back. As always, the HLE team and HLE members are always welcome. Welcome you guys with open arms like family. I do offer a 20% discount to all HLE members. And then, of course, the staff gets special treatment as well to encourage you guys to come back. Caleb has done a great job already connecting me with some incredible veterans that are looking to come out and book some hog hunts. So, after watching this podcast or hearing this podcast, if you'd like to find out more information and get connected with me, I would love the opportunity to host you, to answer any questions, to see if our outfit and our ranch and our property and what we offer is a right fit for you. Because at the end of the day, that's my job, right? Is to serve you and to help you create some incredible memories for you and your families. So just reach out to me and we can definitely see what we can get drummed up for sure.
Where can folks find you?
They can find me at elcazadorhunts.com. That's our website. They can go see some pictures. And again, the pricing is different for HLE members and HLE staff. So I offer a discount. That discount is not applied on the website. So whenever you see, just fill out that inquiry information. It sends me an email and I'll get in contact with you. You can also give me a call at 806-518-1165. I'm traveling all the time. Shoot me a text, shoot me a phone call. I promise you I will get back to you. And then also you can reach out to us on Facebook and Instagram, El Cazador Guide. On Instagram, it's at El Cazador Guide. And then on Facebook is El Cazador Guide Service as well. And then, of course, you can request to be a part of the group and see all the different testimonies and harvest and all the pictures and stories and videos of what's taking place out there. And again, see if it's a right fit for you. But if you're anything like these guys, I would love to have you in camp and to be able to create some crazy, wild, awesome stories and memories and kill and shoot and harvest whatever's on your list.
Hell yeah. Dan, you got anything to close us out?
Yeah, check it out. I highly recommend it, guys. It was an awesome experience. I mean, I'm pretty honest. I think most of the time, if ever I have a bad experience, and this was not a bad experience.
Yeah, I second that completely. We had an absolute blast. It was like right in the middle of two events, right after Expo season, going into 3D archery season. Knocked out our first 3D shoot, and it was a great reset, kind of for us to get the crew together, take a little bit of a breather. I was still herding my kids. Caroline were hunting in shifts, so that was kind of a pain in the ass, but it was still a great time, and I couldn't recommend or can't recommend it enough because just being out there, it's a beautiful piece of property. The area is awesome. The facilities are great. And then, Johnathan was an incredible host. And so, yeah, definitely, if you guys are interested in it, hit him up. If you're a team member, definitely hit him up. He's cutting us a great deal. So, and for the staff, and we'll probably, in the team at large, in the future, once the rest of the events slow down a little bit, we'll probably plan a formal HLE event down there and get a crew out to go hunt hogs and have a good time.
Absolutely. Do some trap shooting, some doves, some cooking out, whatever's on the dream list, and we'll make it happen. But I thank you guys for having me, for hosting this, and look forward to many more hunts to come for you and everybody else.
Can't wait. Thanks, Johnathan.
Same here. Thank you, gentlemen.
To all of our listeners, we appreciate the hell out of you guys as always. Talk to you next week.